Whenever we start a Docker container, as an isolated entity, it's going to get started. But at some point of time, it should serve its purpose. Simple example, if it is a MySQL container, it should serve the other clients that is running in a different container or to the other world. It should allow the client to get connected and do the query. By default, MySQL runs in the port 3306. And whenever we start the container, we should open the port 3306 of that specific container and map it to a port available within the host where the machine is running. In case if multiple MySQL, if it is running, I can map multiple MySQL instances to different port of the host. Now for the test and understanding purpose, I am going to start the MySQL container by exposing the port 3306 and bind it to the 3306 port of the host, so that I should be in a position to connect to that MySQL database from the outside world. I don't have any container running. Let me go ahead and start MySQL container by exposing it in the port 3306. So I'm going to run the container. The name of the container is demo-mysql and the root password is this. And it has to be of type MySQL and version 5.6. I'm going to map the host port 3306 against the 3306 port of the container. The container should start running. Yes, it is running. Now I should be in a position to connect to this particular database from outside world. There is a client called MySQL which will facilitate me to connect to any database once if I provide the host name, user ID and the password. Let me get the IP address of the machine. So the entire instance is running in this particular machine, and let me give that as a host name. User ID is root and the password that I had provided, I will give it over here. And the port we are mapping it in the host is 3306. Let me try to connect to the database. Yes, I am able to connect to the database and see the tables. I can create any database that I want, any tables, any operation I want, I can do. So this is a good example on setting up the service required within the container and exposing it to the outside world by mapping the ports. Let us see another example where I'm going to bring in a container where I'll be running a blog called Joomla. I'll make it to run in the port 80. And Joomla, to set up, it needs a MySQL database. So I'll be using the same MySQL database to connect to this particular host name's port. So I need to start another container within the Docker Hub. You can search for the container Joomla. Let me open the official Docker page. I can pull Joomla and I can start the instances. Whatever the version I want, I can tag it, and the Joomla content management system would get installed. Let me go ahead and install Joomla. For that, I need to pull the image. Let me go ahead and pull the image. So it will be pulling the image. Already I do have the image, so it verified and it gave the confirmation the image is up to date. Otherwise, it will go ahead and pull the image. I can start the container having the Joomla with some name, and I'll be linking it to the MySQL. So I'll run the Docker, and I'm going to map the port 80 of this particular Docker to the host system's port 80. And the name of this particular container that is running, it should be some Joomla, and I'm going to link the MySQL container that we started to this particular container so that interchangeably they can use its features. Let me check what are all the containers running. So I do have the Joomla container that is running in port 80, and MySQL, it is running in the port 3306 and it is mapped to the again 3306 port. I should be in a position to access this particular port 80 from the host name of this particular machine. I'm able to get the installation page. This is the first page. I'm going to get it within Joomla. Let me go ahead and give the settings. Let me provide the user ID of the administrator panel and the password. Let me confirm the password. It's going to ask for the host name, user ID, password of the database where it is running. I will provide the same host name of the machine where the container is running, and username root. While starting the MySQL, we provided the database root password. I'll be providing the same password over here, and what should be the database where this particular setup or the tables for this particular Joomla should get installed. Let me call it as Joom and say next. It will try to connect to the database. I am not able to connect. The reason because I had put the HTTP. While copying, the HTTP also got copied. I have removed it now. I'm able to connect to the database. Let me go ahead and install the sample data and proceed. So the installation went through fine. Let me open the administrator panel as well as the site, how it looks like. So I do have a fully running demo of Joomla by connecting to the database running within a different Docker. So I ended up configuring two different Dockers, one for the Joomla and another for the database. Yes, of course, the configurations, it went very simple in terms of I don't need to install the dependent libraries like PHP or the MySQL driver. No dependencies I need to install. But still, I need to do the configuration of exporting the right port, what is the name of that particular image, and I need to start these two. This again, it can be merged and it can be done in a single step using Docker Compose. That we will see it later. As a quick revision, we are able to install two different containers, one for the MySQL and another for the Joomla, and we are able to connect and it is working fine. Let me verify whether I am able to log into the administrator panel. Yes, I am able to. So that means the entire setup of the blog is up and running. Now let us see as a quick demo how to stop these particular containers and remove this container from the host. Let me stop this container. Sudo docker stop and then the ID. Once the Docker is stopped, I should be in a position to remove them. I removed both the container. Let me go ahead and list any container available. I don't have. So it's so simple. I can instantaneously start any container, and even I should be in a position to start multiple containers and link them.